محمد أهل بيت محمد صلوات.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's inshallah remember all the marhumin, all the mu'mineen and mu'minat, especially those who passed away recently. One of our community members, our brother Tahir Jan Husseini, his sister passed away. May Allah bless her soul. As well as, again, is not that long ago, we lost our brother Ahmad Farid Karimi. And all the other marhumin, let's remember them. And also for Shahada of Islam, especially in Lebanon and Gaza, with the Surah Fatiha and Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. For the hastening return of Imam of our time, Ajjalallahu ta'ala faraja, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي لا بداية له والدائم الذي لا نفاد له والأول الذي لا أول لأوليته والآخر الذي لا مؤخر لآخريته ثم صلاته والسلام على خير خلقه وحبيبه حافظ سره ومبلغ رسالاته حبيب إله العالمين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين واللعن الدائم على أعدائهم أعداء الله أجمعين من الآن إلى لقاء يوم الدين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to be a Muslim, the one who submits to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And may Allah strengthen our iman and bless us with His mercy and forgive our shortcomings. And may Allah give us the tawfiq of ubudiyya and servitude and worship with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We are looking at some of the verses which is addressing the believers, and we refer to them as the calls of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously, the entire Quran is a communication of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His creation, is a message sent down for our guidance. وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Or in Surah Al-Baqarah, the first verse after Alif Lam Mim, the second verse, Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That this book, that there is no doubt and skepticism in this book, it's sent down from Allah, is guidance, but for the one who has taqwa. And that was our topic last week, that one of the calls of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the call for taqwa. Taqwa, and we mentioned taqwa means to protect our souls from corruption. is self-restraint, is self-control. That's what taqwa is. When we make good decisions, when we stay away from bad decisions and bad actions, that's taqwa. And the beauty of this ayah is hudan lil muttaqin. It tells us, even Quran, with all its power, with all its eloquence and beauty, if you recite Quran to someone who doesn't have taqwa, would not be effective. It will not work. An example of that in the history was Abu Jahl. And a long list of people who listened to Quran, listened to revelation, but it didn't work. The weakness and the flaw is not in the message. The issue is not with the Quran. The issue is with the receiver. One issue that is very common is internet. Mashallah, everybody here is a tech savvy now. Is one of the annoying things that people deal with is internet connection. Once in a while, there is no service, and suddenly the moment you see the family members coming to you as a parent, as you think it was, an apocalyptic event took place, is the moment that the internet is basically stopped working. Why? There's Wi-Fi but there's no signal. Sometimes the issue is that the disconnection comes from the source, meaning the company, the provider, there's an outage. That's why there is no internet connection. You have the signal, you have your router working, you have the power, but there is no signal. But sometimes the issue is not from the provider. You call them, say, no, there is no outage in your area. Your neighbors, everybody in your area, they have a perfectly working internet. Then you figure, the issue is from my modem. The issue is from the router. It's from the wiring. It's from my computer. So in that moment, you cannot blame the company, the provider, the internet company, which, by the way, is most of the time they should be blamed because they provide you a very bad quality modem to begin with, and they have the monopoly. Let's not make it a complaining session about internet providers in our area. But the issue is that we cannot complain because the issue is from our end as a receiver of the connection. Quran is nuzul, was sent down to us as a source of guidance. And Allah said, how we know this is not a faulty revelation? Because Allah asked us, فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. فَأْتُوا بِسُورَةٍ مِّن مِثْلِهِ. If you think this is a regular book, bring a chapter like this book. It's a call for an open competition. It's basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not just for the time of Prophet, even till this day, this offer is still valid. You think this is a word of a man? Do you think this is a normal speech? Try to replicate it. And I promise you they tried. It's not for the lack of attempt. But this book itself, which is a message from Allah, Allah says, if you give it to the wrong person, if you give it to someone who doesn't have taqwa, meaning the one who did not control themselves, the one who corrupted their soul, this Quran will not be able to affect them because they chose not to. That's why hudan lil muttaqin. There are those who memorized Quran. Among those who killed Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam were those who recited the Quran. But they didn't have the taqwa. If they had the taqwa, they would not kill the master of the youth of paradise. They would not listen to someone like Yazid. And even if they wanted to compare apple for apple, one side is Yazid ibn Muawiyah. You know what kind of person he is? It's not that, he was known for his worship or for his piety or for his knowledge. No. He was someone that his father appointed him to be a successor. That's all it is. And on the other side, you have Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, the one that all Muslims called them Sayyiday Shabab Ahl Jannah. All Muslims refer to them as Sibtay Nabiy al-Rahman, the sons of the Prophet. It's not a difficult equation to solve. It's not a complicated side to choose. But when you don't have taqwa, when you don't fear God more than your fear of power, right? Because if taqwa sometimes means between Allah and anything beside Allah, I fear Allah more than anything else. Sometimes it means I lose money because of taqwa. Sometimes it means I will be under threat because of taqwa. That is the moment that the true taqwa will manifest itself. So bring us to these calls that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says. That this book that is a guidance for people who has taqwa, which obviously is a way that I use this analogy, that if you have a dirty cup and you go and buy the best quality milk in the market, organic, some of those that they played music for the cows and made sure they had therapists and all that, I don't know what it is. Even that, if you put it in the dirty cup, is going to be dirty milk at the end of the day. Quran is guidance, but for those that their capacity to receive it also is not corrupted and tainted to the fullest. I'm not saying you should be infallible, but the higher the taqwa, higher is our ability to self-restrain and cleanse our soul. Our share of Quran will be more. Our recipient share of guidance will be more. It's not that complicated. So we come to this command of Allah, this call of Allah from Surah An-Nisa, the woman. Verse 135. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Again, addressing the believers. O you who have faith. Kunu qawwamina bil qist shuhada'a lillah. Be maintainers of justice and witnesses for the sake of Allah. So this is another call of Allah, the call for justice, the call for qist. And to be witness for the sake of Allah, meaning sometimes justice is to have a truthful testimony, shahada. That's justice. To say the truth in order for justice to be established is for you to say the truth, وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Even if it should be against yourselves. Let's say that's the true justice. That you are a witness against yourself. أَوْ الْوَالِدَيْنِ. Or this witness or this justice, it means for you to go against your own parents, family. وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. And near relatives. Allah said to be just, to maintain justice, even if it means it's going to cost you, or is going to cost your family or your family, or your parents or your family. إِن يَكُنْ غَنِيًّا أَوْ فَقِيرًا فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى بِهِمَا. And whether it be someone rich or poor, for Allah has a greater right over them. Who are we talking about? This poor and needy. It says that it should not be a matter that, oh, this person, it doesn't make a difference to them. They're rich, right? Or they don't have a good lawyer. We can get away with it. They're poor. The opposition's financial level should not be a factor in justice, in your eyewitness testimony or in your testimony. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one with authority. فَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا الْهَوَىٰ أَن تَعْدِلُوا. So do not follow your desire, lest you should be unfair. Meaning that if you follow your desires, what I like and dislike, my personal opinion, if it's going to be the one, not the truth, as the standard of your testimony or as the standard of your words, then you will end up in unfairness. You will be unfair. وَإِن تَلْوُوا أَوْ تُعْرِضُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. And if you distort the testimony or disregard it, Allah is indeed all aware of what you do. So this is, by the way, Surah An-Nisa. I want you to also know the context of this chapter. The moment you hear these things about masculinity, femininity, Islam, and anti-woman sentiments and all that, one thing is to say there are violent behavior against women in Muslim community. That's true in some cases, as it is among the non-Muslim community. That's not to be justified. That's not something to take it lightly. There are, unfortunately, domestic violence. There are violence against women, not only in US, but even in Muslim countries as well. Muslim countries are not heavens. They're not Jannah, that there is no mistake done by people. There are. That's one thing. We cannot run away from it, and okay, as long as you are not biased, as long as you not try to distort an unfair image of the Muslim countries, that's fair. But one moment is not about people, it's about your religion. Your entire faith is against women. That's an accusation. Your entire message and spirituality and Quran and the teaching of your faith is anti-woman. That's a different accusation. And obviously we reject, we oppose this accusation. And again, it's a long topic of its own. The performance and the actions of the followers of a religion should never be attributed to the religion itself. What we are seeing right now in Gaza and Lebanon is nothing to do with Musa alayhi salam or the religion of Musa alayhi salam. It's about the people who attribute themselves. Same as when we see what's happening with Daesh. It's never about what our prophet and our faith is about people. That's why most of the time, these people, they have political motives behind it. It's not about the religion. It's about, as I said, it's about influence. It's about occupation. It's about power. It's about territories. It's about influence, as I said. But religion is the scapegoat. It's the easier way to say, oh, it's religion. It's simplifying a very, or portraying a very different image of the reality, which is untrue. So Surah An-Nisa, it was revealed in the time of the Prophet. Right now, we are 1,400 years since the Prophet's time. Over 1,400 years since the time of the Prophet. We're talking about women's right and not 100 years ago, and not 200 years ago. We're talking about a woman's right in 1,400 years ago. If you want to talk about women's right, all we have to do is look at history, and that's why it's important to study history. Look at the history of women in the West, when women got the right to vote in the West, and the rest of the countries as well. You know, realistically, when we talk about this, there are Muslim countries who have women presidents already. And the United States did not have a woman president till now. I'm not saying it's about turn, that it should be a woman. It's not none of that. I'm not trying to promote it or advocate for, no, none of that. But I'm saying even if it was based on the semantics and based on the advertisement of it, Muslim countries had president women, and they have president women. And they were Muslim countries, at least to their standard that they call themselves Muslim. So 1,400 years ago, a chapter was revealed called An-Nisa, the woman. What is the topic do you think about? It's about women's properties right. It talks about the rights of women. It talks about their access to their own assets. Because back then, this is not at the time of the Arab, even a couple of hundred years ago, you would see women could not sell their own property in UK. In Great Britain, they couldn't have access to their own property. They needed a permission of a man in order to do it. And in Quran, Allah talks about that women have the right over their property. It belongs to them. Whether it's inheritance, whether it's that their own money they made from business, whatever that is. And this ayah specifically, when it's talking about justice, it talks also about justice in regard of women as well. That sometimes to do justice is that you are the man and you have to do justice even if it's going to cost you, if it's going to be against yourself. So what's the call of Allah when it comes to qist, justice? Justice, what it means, and you've heard it from me, it's to put everything in a place that they belong to. That's what justice. Put everything in the right position. Equality 50-50 is not the definition of justice. So sometimes justice, it means not 50-50. Justice, sometimes it means 80-20. That's what justice is. Let's say somebody did 80% of the work and somebody only did 20% of the work. Justice is to compensate one 80%, the other one 20%. So it's not always about 50-50. It's about the rights, it's about the haqq. So when you look at the Quran, the topic of justice, it comes in three kind of categories. The first one, recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of them that again is used as the subject of justice and idalat is when we're talking about doing the justice between two people, reconciliation. Ta'adilu baynahum, what Quran says. The definition of justice is that you bring people together and you do justice in regard to reconciliate a friction, a breakup. It means sometimes to do justice in the case of marriage, in the case of divorce. There's about two parties being involved. That's one call of Allah for justice. Another example that we have in the Quran is when it comes to being a judge, to rule as the one who are in the position of being a qadi. They ask you to pass a judgment. It could be an official judge, or it could be in a position that basically we can call it loosely that they ask you as a third party to choose. They ask you, okay, you come and you tell us which one of us are right. You listen and you make a judgment. It doesn't mean you have to go to the court, but you are assigned for arbitration, for mediation, for someone to pass a judgment. And Allah here also warns us about justice. As someone, you're supposed to make a judgment. In the case of actual judgment, in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam, this is when Imam Ali alayhi salam was the ruler, was the Khalifa. This is when he has the power. We have that Imam alayhi salam, his armor was stolen. Famous story. But I want to take this story and put it in our lives. What is our armor that we are talking? What is the dispute that we have? So Imam's armor was stolen. A non-Muslim was seen with the armor. And when he was confronted, he said, no, it's mine. So Imam alayhi salam did what, rather than using his force and influence, he said, okay, I have a claim against this armor. I'm saying this is mine, and you're saying it's not mine. Let's go to the court. Let's go to the judge. They go to the judge. He is the Khalifa, and this person is a non-Muslim living in a Muslim system, Muslim government. And the judge addresses Imam Ali alayhi salam by his kunya, Abul Hasan. And he addresses, again, the one who's the plaintiff, basically. There are two sides, right? The defendant and plaintiff. Addressed him by his first name. And Imam alayhi salam did not wait it for later on. At that moment, he interrupted the judge and said, "You didn't do justice. You called me by my kunya, which is a respectful way of addressing someone. It shows that you look at me with a different level of respect and you address him by his first name. You didn't do justice." He apologizes and eventually they move on. By the end of that session, the verdict is that the non-Muslim has the armor. There's not enough evidence to prove, because you need eyewitnesses, you need proof. And the Muslim judge gives the favor to the non-Muslim. And they walk out. And Imam ﷺ said, "Okay, this is the judgment. Yeah, it is mine, but we went through the system. There are limits to it." They walk away. This is justice. This is a capacity to swallow the bitter pill of justice. That's what we're talking about. That sometimes is وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. Sometimes justice is going to cost you. Later on, of course, that man comes to Imam Ali alayhi salam. He confessed that this was not mine. And eventually that starts a bond and a connection with Imam Ali alayhi salam. So that's another form of justice that we're talking about. The third one we have in our verses and ayat, we're talking about justice in our speech. That our qawl, our words carry justice. It means that in what we say, in what we communicate, in our communication, we should have justice. Sometimes, again, exaggeration, going overboard, is leaving the realm of justice. So either of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said the command of Allah to the believer is what? Is to maintain justice. And we have, a long list of these examples in the life of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. But when we are saying a practical example, when we talk about justice, the definition of justice is to put everything in the right place. I give you an example that when we are losing justice. Example, let's say someone, they make mistakes. There's someone out there, he or she makes a mistake. But before this mistake, they had so many other good qualities. Justice is what? To see the good and the mistake. Because they did 9 good things and they did 1 mistake. That's justice, right? What is unjust? Only focus on the negative. Only the negative. We are usually responsible for this kind of injustice. In our relationships with our family members, with our community, with people, in public. Somebody who's been doing us service. Our parents, an example. They did so much good. They raised us, they provided for us, they protected us, they took care of us. And as a human, they were unfortunately made some mistakes as well. Justice is not to say, you know what, I have the worst parents. Everywhere that I sit, all I talk about is how bad my parents are. All I talk about is the negative. That's not doing justice about them. Yes, if you're talking to your therapist and you need help, I get it. You have to talk about the problems. But to sit everywhere and just cause an entire drama and dishonor your entire family because of their mistake is not being just. Same as in a marriage. Quran says that even when you do divorce, talaq and divorce is such an ugly thing. Abghadul halal is the most disliked lawful practice before God, according to the words of the Prophet. Abghadul halal. Allah is halal is permitted sometimes, depending on the circumstances. But even then, it still is abghad, is the most disliked, because you are breaking apart a union which was sacred. Sometimes, again, there is no other way out of it. It should not be a first go-to move, but sometimes that's the only solution. We have that even in that moment, which you're all filled with rage and anger. At that moment, if you did justice, that's the true form of justice. This is someone that you dislike. This is someone that in some cases you can say dislike is the easy word. Maybe despise, hate, whatever that is. Your emotions take over. And that moment, for whatever reason, you're hurt by them. But to go around and start lying. I remember years ago, there was a case that there were people who are in the process of divorce, but these very ridiculous divorce, these ridiculous rumors start to spread in their families. That the reason of their divorce was such a, horrible, indecent reason. So I remember I was a guest speaker. They sat me down, the family members, said, this is what's happening. They're getting divorced, but now they're accusations, they're big deals. They're saying things about each other that is horrible. So I remember I sat down with them separately before putting them in, with each other, and I talked to them. I remember it took us a while, but eventually, when we get to the bottom of it was, we were trying to protect ourselves. How? Because we are divorcing, and again, there are issues with our divorce. They're going to go out there and say things about us. We wanted to say something about them before they say something about us. To do what? Yeah, because we're protecting ourselves. We don't want them to be the one accuse us of something. So I said, you know that you just said accuse. It means it was not true. Say, yeah, but it wasn't really a lie. There was some mistake. This is a moment that emotions take over. That people forget honesty, decency, justice. All of them goes out of the window. Especially anger, when anger takes over. When people are angry, they say things that are the most hurtful things. We are all victims of it, and we are also perpetrators. Because we become angry, and sometimes we are the one who are being the subject of someone's anger. We are attacked by someone's anger. Both. So justice is وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. What's the definition of justice according to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Again, it's narrated from our Prophet that if you want to look at who is the a'dal, the most just of all people, the narration says the most just of all people is the one who likes, who chooses for others what he likes and chooses for himself. He likes for himself, for others what he likes for himself. That's it. That's the most just of all people. They asked that question. And if you ask yourself, yes, this is my child. But if somebody else was doing this to my child, again, this is not my child. But obviously between my child and somebody who's not my child, who I'm going to choose? It's not what is it called? It's not something to even think twice about it. My child. Priority goes to my child. There is a fight, there's a dispute in a school. Your child is the bully. The other side is the one who's being attacked. You go out there and you say, as a father, my job is to protect my child. But the justice said, my child is at fault. First thing I have to ask is, okay, what's going on? Explain to me what happened. Verify if exactly that's what happened. Talk to your child. Is that really what happened? Once it becomes clear that your child was at fault, he or she was guilty, then the justice is, we're going to go and apologize. We're going to go forward. This is unacceptable. You're grounded. This is what happens. You're my son and child. You're my daughter. I love you so much. But it doesn't justify for you to get away with what you've done. We are standing up for what's right. I want to repeat this. If your child comes and does something to you, it's about you. You forgive them. You're a parent. You have the right. It was your personal right. They're your child. They come and they scratch your car. It's your car. It's okay. It's not important. You know? Hundreds of these cars, may be sacrificed for you. You're my child. I don't care. But if they go and scratch somebody else's car, you cannot expect them to have the same attitude. You have to go forward. You're liable. Not just legally, you're Islamically responsible. If your child is underage, you are responsible to pay for the damages. It's haqqun nas, it's people's right. That's وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. That's something to do the justice, to do the right thing. To be just, it means to go against your own family. I give an example, to go against yourself, and others to go against your own children, and it could be sometime against your parents. But what help us to maintain justice? Let's inshallah finish with that with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. How can we maintain justice? It's easy to say be just, be good, do the right thing, but how can we actually make ourselves stronger to establish justice, to work for justice? One of them, which is important, is pay attention that when we dislike someone, especially when we are not friend or when we are not friendly with someone, we think twice about our reactions, about our actions to them. Because sometimes we say, you know what, this person is my mortal enemy. I don't know whatever that means. I don't like this guy. I don't like this person. Okay, for whatever reason. Sometimes they give you a bad vibe. Sometimes they did something to your family, whatever that is. Because you don't like someone, it doesn't justify for you to do whatever you want to them. Even them, they have a right over you. That's the way you practice justice. With who? With people you don't like. With people we like, obviously we do justice. We do our best to do justice. But the true test is, okay, I don't like this person. This is a moment to avenge. Whatever happened, this is a payback time. This is a revenge time. That's the moment that we test justice. In the battle of Siffin, a man fought against Imam Ali alayhi salam. He was injured, and eventually the message got to his family that he was killed in the battle. He was killed. So after a while, this injury took long. He was not able to get back to his family. His wife remarried. Very unfortunate, but it happened. And this is the enemy of Imam Ali who fought against Imam Ali in the battle of Siffin. He sided with Muawiyah. He came to Imam Ali alayhi salam. He didn't go anywhere else because he tried, it didn't work. So we thought he was dead. He went to Imam and said, Ya Ali, even if you know I was the one who fought against you, is that going to stop you from justice? And he said, there's nothing on earth worthy enough to stop justice. What is it? Then he basically present his case. Imam Ali stand by his side. He goes to the family. He talks until this person gets his right, which is basically in Islam, that marriage was void to begin with. Because they thought this person was dead. Because he wasn't, that marriage, the new marriage is void, is invalid. So Imam made the religious case, also talked to the family, eventually reunited with his family. And this is the one who did it for his enemy. This is why Sude Hamdani was a woman. Muawiyah summoned her. Summon is an easy word probably. They forced her to come to him. He said, I heard that wherever you sit, you talk about Ali. He died. Stop talking about him. Why are you so obsessed with him? So how can I not talk about a man that when he died, justice died with him? Justice was buried with him. Because he was in charge, now I see it. When I wanted to talk to you for months and months and months, I said, you want to go to Muawiyah? This is not going to happen. And I remember I went to the Masjid of Kufa and I wanted to talk to him. And I wanted to complain about one of the governors of Ali to him. He was doing his salat. The moment he finished his salat, he came and he said, how can I help you? What is it? And I start saying that this is a governor you appointed. This is what he has been doing. He didn't do justice. And right away, Imam al-Islam sent a messenger to verify. And Imam told me that if the report checks out and verified, that person will be reprimanded. He will be held accountable. He was apologetic to me, Sude Hamdani said. This is a man that I talk about. Wherever I sit, I will talk about him. That's the kind of justice I saw from him. So to do justice against even people we don't like. The true justice will be shown when we are dealing with people that we don't like, who we dislike, who even are enemies. The second way that we can strengthen our sense of justice, establishing justice, is when it comes to being, as I said, the testimony, shahada, as Quran says. When you want to say something. Remember that in our faith, when we see something, ghaiba is a form of testimony as well, right? Gossiping. Gossip, backbiting, is a form of testimony. Behind someone's back, you said, oh, I saw them. Did you know about them? This is a testimony. This is a shahada. And our religion said it's forbidden. It's haram. It's not optional. It's forbidden. Why is it? Because when it comes to these testimonies, there's a lot of shortcoming when it comes to testimonies. That's why when it comes to the Islamic court, when you are bringing witnesses, there should be 2 of them. In case of men, there should be 2. Women, there should be 4. Why? Because if one of them made a mistake, other is there to verify, to corroborate, to make sure that this has actually happened. When we do ghiba and gossip, we're talking about our point of view of what happened to people. This is what they've done. I saw them, they were walking in the street. I saw them doing this. I saw them walk out of the store. I saw something, but there's so many limits. Why they went there, what they actually did. Did they actually do something haram? That's why when it comes to testimony and shahada, you cannot say, oh, it's obvious that this happened. You should actually see the action with your own hand. You should, with your own eyes. You should see exactly what happened. You cannot say, oh, this is what happened, so it could be, or this is what it means. We cannot do that. That testimony will be rejected. So it's important, in order to strengthen our sense of justice, to be mindful of what we see as well. That what we see is not always a true decider to find the truth. You see something, but it doesn't mean you get everything. That's the zahir of it. That's the outward. That's what seems obvious from the outside. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi salam said that when you want to test someone's character, what you should not be looking at. لا تنظر إلى كثرة صلاتهم وصومهم. You want to test someone's character? Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq said, do not look at how they pray so much, they fast so much. What you should be looking at. ولكن انظروا إلى صدق الحديث وأداء الأمانة. The true test of character is when it comes to truthfulness and when it comes to how trustworthy they are, returning amanat. This is the deciding factor. So that's the second way to strengthen the sense of justice. To be mindful of our eyewitness or our, we can say, observation. Stop connecting the dots. If I want to simplify it, it's good sometimes to be ignorant about what people are doing. I couldn't be more obvious about this. When it comes to about life, when it comes to about our circumstances, when it comes to about threats, no, we cannot be oblivious, we cannot be ignorant. We should defend ourselves, we should protect ourselves, we should be ready. When it comes to the affairs of the people at large, we cannot be careless about what's happening in the world. We should educate ourselves on the matter. We should recognize misinformation, propaganda. That's all obviously our responsibility. But the moment it comes to people's personal lives, what they're doing in their family, their family dynamic, the details of their life, how much money they make, who divorced who's fighting with who is, whatever these details are, let's call them AKA drama. Our approach of our faith is وَلَا تَجَسَّسُوا. Do not investigate. In other words, not knowing is better. Not only better, it should be the way. It has nothing to do with us. But we got used to it. It became a hobby, right? We make fun of our children. Oh, they play games all the time. I cannot, make them stop playing. If you leave them, they will be playing, watching all the time. Adults, if they leave us alone, some of us, we will gossip. We gossip, ongoing gossip. And the moment we said, okay, let's go. At the door, we have another gossip session. That's our hobby. They found a video game. We play games with people's lives, with families' lives. Passing judgment, what can I do? To be nosy, unfortunately, becomes a fun thing to some people. What our faith said, the lesser you know, the better. Oh, do you know what happened? No, I don't know and I don't want to know. If they have a problem that I can help, yes, please let me know. If they lost their job, if they were laid off, if they need a loan, if there's something I can do, yes. But if it's something happened, if there's some issue with them that I don't know, I don't know. So that's the second way. That's the sense of justice about our observation. We should choose what are we looking at, what are we observing, what are we giving our attention to. And the third and the last one, I finish with that sometimes the best way to practice justice and a sense of justice is to investigate about our decisions. Have more information before we choose a side. In Quran, Allah talks about Dawood alayhi salam. You heard this story before in a different topic. But we have that Dawood alayhi salam was in his mihrab, in his sanctuary. Two people came to him in a very dramatic way, Quran says. They came to his sanctuary. Suddenly they start presenting a case to him. And by the way, Dawood alayhi salam was known for his judgment, qidawa. He was a qadi. And he was known for his justice in his judgment. So they presented themselves as that we are two brothers. This brother of mine, he had 99 sheep. I only have one. And he took the only one that I had. You are a fair, a just judge. Do justice. Help me. Save me from my brother. And we had that Dawood alayhi salam, he speed up and basically quickly make a decision. blaming the other brother that he did an unjust act. And this person who presented the case, it introduces himself that I am a messenger, I'm an angel from Allah, and this was a test for you. We are from Allah. This is from the Quran. It's not in a story that we have. This is mentioned in the Quran for a reason. They mentioned that we are a messenger, we are angels from Allah. And basically the gist of the message is that you rushed in your decision. You didn't take the other side's, basically, this person presented their case, but you should also listen to the defendant. This is the plaintiff, defendant. Maybe this person owed them. These are the one that we had in the tafsir, basically. They kind of elaborate on it. Maybe this brother owed him. Maybe he borrowed money. Maybe he sold it to him. Now he changed his mind. Maybe they have a contract. Just because this guy had 99 sheep, it doesn't make him a bad guy. So it becomes that Dawood alayhi salam repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is not a sin, by the way. For us, prophets of Allah are sinless. They are ma'asum. But to be infallible and ma'asum, it doesn't mean you will not be tested. You will be still tested. A prophet of God will not commit a sin, a major sin that average man commits. None of the prophets of God lied. That's a sin that average man makes. None of the prophet of God become hopeless, despair in the mercy of Allah. Yes. None of the prophet of God were mushrik, polytheist. Go on the list of major sins. None of those sins was committed by any prophet. That's what ma'asum means. But they, as a level of a prophet, they were tested. And some of them did not pass the test. We call that awla. Mean to average people, that's not a sin, but for a prophet, that's unacceptable. You've heard this before, I said it, but I hope by this time, the moment I inshallah give you a reference, you get quickly. Tarki awla, meaning they didn't do what was ideal, what was preferable to us, but for them it was a requirement. Example, Yunus alayhi salam. He stayed with his people. The narration said for years he preached, but they didn't listen to him. What he did, he abandoned them. He ran out of patience, he abandoned them. He asked Allah to punish them. Later on, Allah said, no, you should have been more patient. As a prophet, we expected more from you. And that's why you end up in the stomach of the well. He repented. He said, Ya Allah, I wronged myself. La ilaha illa ant, subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. And he's one of the people who said, you said prophets are infallible. If they're infallible, why he's asking Allah to forgive him? Why he say, I wronged myself? The reason is because as a prophet, still they will be tested. And in case of Yunus alayhi salam, what sin he committed? What sin? As an average man, what's the sin of an average man? If, let's say, I talk to people, they don't listen to me, what I do? Eventually I walk away. Is that a sin? No. إِذَا خَطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. Sometimes with ignorant people, when you cannot get to them, you just walk away. But for a prophet of God, is a different story. You're appointed by Allah, you're a messenger, you're the captain of the ship, you should be the last leaving. It's a different story. So a prophet will be tested. Dawood was tested as well. So the way that we strengthen our sense of justice is that when we don't have enough information, do not pass a judgment. They come to you and say, you know what? Your cousin did this. His wife did this. Your brother did this. His wife did this. These are moments that they ask us. But you don't have all the pieces. You don't know all the information. Our brain says, of course I'm going to take my brother's side. I'm going to take my cousin's side. As a woman, I'm going to take the woman's side. As a man, I'm going to take the man's side. That's not justice. Justice is for me to have all the pieces or the best I can gather before I be able to pass a judgment. The best thing in this situation, I don't have all the information, is what? I don't know. Allah knows best. Should Allah bring khayr to them. Because suddenly you say this person's a horrible person, okay, Allah guide them, inshallah. That's it. But do not expect me to act on it when I don't have all the information. And sometimes dhulm and injustice happen when we don't have all the pieces. When we do not, that we have people who are suspicious. God forbid they have this suspicion against their own family. There are people who are become unnecessarily suspicious of their husband or their wife. Do you have information? No. There are people that unfortunately sometimes they provoke. So do you know who your husband is talking to? No, I don't. Yeah, let me not say anything. I don't want to come between you guys. You just did. Start a fire and then walk away and say, I don't want to start a fire. You already did. I know it's difficult because in that moment, our desires take over. What if this is true? What if this? And then that leads to problems. I starting a fight over nothing. I don't have all the pieces, but I heard something. And mashallah, our cultures are filled with these idioms and saying that, oh, if there is something, people say something. What nonsense is that? People say things all the time and it's not true. I always say, if somebody come to you, say, I'm here because I care for you. Take it with a grain of salt. Because listen, we're talking about a marriage. I don't know how long your marriage been. But if they try to come between you and your spouse, technically your spouse should care more for you than that person. Technically, right? Is your spouse, is your husband or wife. So if you take their word over your spouse's word, I think we need a lot of work on that relationship. That some stranger or some familiar person, we take their word over someone else. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the insight, the basira, the wisdom to recognize how to fulfill, how to establish, how to maintain justice, to recognize injustice when it's committed by us. Of course, when we see injustice in Gaza and Lebanon, we see it. We speak up, we condemn, we're outraged by it, and we should be, rightly so. But may Allah also help us to see our form of aggressions, God forbid, our form of injustice, that we may be accomplice, maybe we are responsible. That at the end of the judgment, at the end of the day, on the day of judgment, it's called the day of judgment for a reason. It's a judgment time. We will be judged. We will be judged for our sides that we took, for our judgment that we passed, for what we could have done, and the way we could have handled challenges and dispute. How we even dealt with our enemies, how even we dealt with people we didn't like and disliked. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten the return of Imam of our time, the one who his return will be the true manifestation of the promised justice for humanity, the savior for all mankind. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be among his sincere awaiters and followers, and may Allah help us to be among his, inshallah, Shi'as and supporters during the time of his dhuhur and return as well, inshallah. May Allah bless the soul of all marhumin. May Allah grant those who are ill and sick and marid, those who need and ask for our du'as with immediate shifa and remedy and healing. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring an end to the suffering of all the madhlumeen, all the oppressed of the world, especially what we see, the urgent need of our du'as are for people of Lebanon and Gaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide them with immediate safety and end of suffering, inshallah. And may Allah humiliate the oppressors and zalimeen in dunya and akhirah. Allahumma ighfir lana wa liwalidayna wa liwaliday walidayna wa liman lahu haqqun alayna wa li jami'il mu'minina wal mu'minat. Recite Surah Fatiha with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It was in the email, but just remember from tomorrow, our Taha Islamic Academy is November 2nd, so Sister Sohail Aryan's class will start tomorrow. So those who are signed up for her class, 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, will be inshallah the advanced Quran class taught by Sister Aryan. So make sure, inshallah, those who sign up, please show up and drop off your children on time. And for the rest of the classes, we go as scheduled, which is starting at 10 a.m. for the other students, inshallah.